Sziasztok, magyarok! I'm Robert Kubica and you are listening to Formula Podcast.
This is Formula Podcast, the show of Hungarian motor racing publication Autosport és Formula magazine. Please join us.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Formula Podcast, the show of Autosport és Formula, Hungary's motorsport magazine. My name is Sándor Mészáros and I'm the publication's traveling reporter and an FIA-accredited Formula One journalist. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook under the same username, Mesandor. M-E-S-A-N-D-O-R. Our podcast is a COVID product that has been running since March of 2020, but this episode marks an important milestone in many ways. First and foremost, because this is our very first English language show, but more importantly because we have something that we can share with you very proudly. It's a special in-depth conversation with the Polish motor racing legend, reserve driver of Alfa Romeo F1 team Orlen, Robert Kubica. Without the slightest doubt, Robert is a truly unique and really special person for us. There were drivers from this part of Europe who got to Formula One before him, such as Tomáš Enge from the Czech Republic, or our Hungarian legend Zsolt Baumgartner, who did 20 races with Jordan and Minardi in 2003 and 2004, and even scored 1 point. But no question, Robert reached the highest level, and it's fair to say that his career is still an example to many racing drivers, not only in this part of Europe, but all over the world. Robert's way in the world of motorsport is very well documented. A young kid in the city of Krakow had a strong interest, a strong passion, and of course a huge talent for karting, so he moved to Italy at a young age to try to make it to the top. Despite the fact that his situation was not always easy, his determination and courage helped him in making his package work. He was a top gun in karting and he was able to beat guys like Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg and many other big names on a regular basis. Later on, he was very good in the junior car racing series, so Renault signed him for their driver academy and he won the title of Formula Renault 3.5 championship. The results speak for themselves and those results paved the way for Robert to enter Formula One. However, on his journey everything that happened behind the scenes was nothing but thrilling. When I invited him to join me, I told him that I want to show Robert Kubica, the person, the individual behind the helmet's visor, rather than discussing races, results, cars or technical details. I was sure that he had many untold stories and never heard before details, and I'm glad to say that I was correct. As always, Robert was kind enough to share so much with us. The first part of our conversation was about his roots in Eastern Europe, the early karting days, and how a trip to the 1997 Hungarian Grand Prix influenced him and his future. Ladies and gentlemen, please join to us. Robert Kubica, the great Polish legend, welcome in the Formula Podcast. It's a huge honor to have you in the show and thanks a lot for finding some time for us because we know that your schedule is always pretty busy.
Yeah, hi, thank you very much for welcome. We have been planning this for long, but finally here. I'm looking forward, excited because in Poland we don't have Grand Prix, so always Hungary has been very close to my heart, and a lot of things actually happened in my career around Hungary and Budapest.
This is one of the reasons why it's a huge honor to have you, and this is one of the reasons why we are so happy, because we know that you have such close ties with the Hungarian Grand Prix and Hungary, and we consider you as our boy. You belongs to us as well. We follow your extraordinary journey in motorsport in all those years since day one. We know the milestones from your karting days till today, and hopefully we will know a bit more about you as a person thanks to this interview. So your career is so rich, but I have to start somewhere. So I decided to start with a small game. So would you be so kind to describe yourself, your personality in 3 words? First you, and then I will tell you my interpretation.
I would say 3 words: demanding, focus, and pretending a lot from myself.
Okay. My interpretation of Robert Kubica is a fighter, a hero, and someone with a huge courage. and let's
well, it's a good 3 things, so I appreciate.
Talking about the courage, what do you think about your roots? Because obviously you are coming from Eastern Europe, and in all around the planet, they say that that people who are coming from Eastern Europe had much more courage than anyone else. How do you see this? Do you agree with this theory or not?
Well, we start from very far away then, because in the end, I think not a lot of people are part of Eastern Europe countries. They really know how it was even traveling in the early 90s, end of 80s, 90s. First time I remember, my history or my story with driving started actually very young, because when I was 5. So in 89, 90s in Poland, it was not so simple to, go to buy anything you want and to drive. I have been driving in the parking place around the bottles which were filled with the sand to keep them, on the ground. And then even when I start racing in the international level, we start going with my father and my mechanic traveling to mainly Italy, because we were doing this in the winter period, in Christmas and New Year Eve period. Because I was going, of course, to school, so we have to find the best period possible. And even traveling there was, I would say, not as easy as it is now, because there were borders. You could lose 6-7 hours waiting in the border. So I think all these things, because I was coming from such a, let's call it, exotic country at the time for international racing, makes me feeling proud, first of all. Second of all, I think we had to, I'm not saying fight, but we had to put more energy into doing things to really make them happen, and they were not so simple. Of course, when I started racing karting in 98, actually I started living away of Poland in Italy. Without my family stayed in Poland. And I think this was the kind of turning point, or is a period where your character is kind of going into directions. And for sure, being alone in different country, although I would do it 100 times, because I really enjoyed that time, and I was doing what I was loving. I had the opportunity to race in the best races around the world, around Europe, with the factory team, with the CRG, as a 13-year-old kid. So for me, it was a dream, and I was doing well. So when you are a kid, you are living your time without really thinking. You just enjoy. You just want to be happy, and of course, I was happy because I was doing what I really like it, and I was doing it well. But it has been a lot of races. It has been a lot of things going on. And then in 2001, why I arrived to this point, because I moved to 2001, I moved into single-seaters in Formula Renault. And then, again, first year I have been living actually in workshop, because I didn't have really, first of all, money. Second of all...
You slept just beside your go-kart.
No, it was Formula Renault, so already single seaters.
Oh.
But I slept on the first floor of the workshop. Actually, there were some offices, and 2 offices were turned into the bedrooms, and there were some mechanics sleeping there, and myself. And then, but I was living, I was kind of living my passion, and it was nice. And then 2002. First time actually I have become a Renault driver development, so a Renault Academy driver, and they placed me into the apartment, which was like 20 minutes away from the workshop, and I had much more time to at that time, when you go to sleep you have more time to think, and I didn't like it, but all these things, I think they kind of define your character, define yourself. And first of all, I'm super lucky that I have a sport which helped me to define my character. Second of all, of course, I feel super lucky because I had the opportunity to do it. And then the third thing is that in the end, my passion, my hobby in the beginning, then passion, become my work. And I think there is nothing better in your life than that your work is your passion. Many times when I joined Formula One, I remember, in the August period or winter period, people were asking me when I go for holidays, and I was saying, well, I have all year holidays.
I remember that you told us in an interview well before, and you said it many times, that when you started to do karting, there was not even a coverage of Formula One in Poland. And you didn't really know what Formula One is at that time. But you started to doing it, you did it with great passion. When was the first time when you realized that there is a possibility to reach Formula One?
Well, this is a nice topic because in the end, it was not only when I was doing karting. To be honest, I don't remember myself watching Formula One in Polish television until 2003. Long time ago. I mean, it has been a long period. So I think first time I saw 2002, 2003. I think it was 2003 actually. I remember myself watching when I was a kid, British Touring Car Championship in one of the channels in Polish television. But attention, it would not be so nice. It was, I think, 96, and I was watching races from 95. Yeah, and but Formula, to be honest with you, Formula One, I think this was okay. Now I'm of course 37, so I understand much more from also parent point of view. I do not have family, but I see many karting drivers, many families, and for me, people are talking too early about their kids. About Formula One, about that they are new Lewis Hamilton, that they are new Schumachers, that they are new Alonso's. And I don't remember my parents or whoever was around me talking that I'm good enough to arrive into Formula One. I was actually, my father was quite harsh on myself, and he was pretending, which was correct. I think this was a best school I could have, because I remember some hard times. She was harsh on me. I remember the story of my first qualifying in Mugello, my first international race in Italian Championship in '98, and it was a nice story because there was a very long straight line, a fast corner right. Which you could do flat out, and then another short straight line and braking into the hairpin. And we didn't have practically engines. We have only 2 engines, which one was very good, one was so. Practically what I was doing, I was choking the filter to protect the engine to don't break end of straight line. But of course, I was losing a lot of performance because the fast corner was flat. So, it was losing performance. But I was doing this for all free practice. And then I go qualifying, of course, massive stress. I go qualifying, and to be honest, I forgot. My father told me probably 100 times to don't choke anymore, to have maximum performance. But as you know, full stress. I go qualifying, I choke, I finish qualifying, I arrive into the weighing area, when there is scales in karting, and I weigh myself because you have to push your cart. And then there was a small television, not even screen, because at that time there were no screens. A television, and you see classifications. So I start from the bottom. I go up, I arrive, I cannot see myself, I arrive into like top 10, and I cannot see myself. So I said, well, I go back again. So I go down, I go up again, and I think I was P5 or P6. And at that time, I hear my father screaming, "What you have done!" Blah, blah, blah. And I was so excited, to see myself in that group, and because I was going to Gento with really no expectations. Any other Polish driver before, they struggle. We have a couple of good drivers before myself in karting. But some people were struggling to enter a final. So for me, to get into the top was nice. But what happened there? So of course, a big mess, what I have done. And then second qualifying, where you do actually with not anymore four new tires, but 2 new tires only. Actually, I was the only one who improved the lap time, and I did a pole position. So thanks to this, also, to chasing and to be harsh, I think, there was always something that I could do better, and this was what is my approach. I think there is always something you can do better, and this is again coming back to your first question about the character. Is really something which is good school, and yeah, it has been a tough time in karting, but a nice time, and I never had Formula 1, but the first time really I thought about Formula 1. Honestly, even when I was going to my first test with Renault, after winning 2005 World Series by Renault Championship, I remember I was in Poland. I traveled to Barcelona from Poland, and I said to my girlfriend at that time, wow, I won the championship, yes. The team probably wants to test something else, but they are kind of obliged by Renault Corporation to let me test. What do you want me? I say something. What do you want me? What do you want they do? They will let me do some laps, and that's it. Actually, I arrived, and first of all, I arrived the day before, so I went around the track, and I remember we were behind the barrier next to the track with Daniele Morelli, who was my manager at the time. Watching the other drivers driving, and Barcelona, it was old configuration, so last 2 corners were fast corners, and I look at cars, I look at him, and I say, I cannot do this. It's too fast. I cannot do this. And then what happened is that first of all, I found a lot of nice people from that team at that day. They helped me a lot. And actually, I was unlucky with the weather because it was very cold. So I started, my day was split in 2 because they had to drive also Giorgio Mondini, who won the year before, but he was not able to test. And yeah, I started driving, and I started driving very fast, but like properly fast. That car was probably one of the best cars I have driven in my life. But
you said it before that it was the best car. You said it before that it was definitely the best car what you ever driven in Formula 1.
It was super. I mean, it has been really a nice day, and probably there I said I might do it. I mean, I'm able to do it only by then. I have never thought before about really potentially that I can be one day a Formula 1 driver. And to be honest with you, if I don't do this test and even during that day, we received some phone calls, which was of course very nice. First of all, from Flavio Briatore, who knew me before because, or not directly, he probably didn't know me before, but because I have been in 2002 day driver. They signed me, but they dropped me after 6 months.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, I know, okay, I didn't win championship. I finished P2 in the Italian championship, but I think there were different reasons. I knew before already that I would be dropped. There is a lot of young drivers which that are very strong. So there is high competition in those academies. But in the end, the real story is that if this test doesn't go well and we do not receive any calls, and this was, to be honest, I thought I go there for fun. I have my few laps in F1 car, and my story in F1 will be finished. And I was talking with people in Japan to go racing in Japan because I didn't have a budget to go Formula 2 or GP2 at that time. So I say, I met some people in Macau in Formula 3 from Japan, from Tom's, and Japanese people, they have completely different culture. At that time, I didn't really know. I thought they make me very good impression. They were very kind with me, and for me at that time it seems that they want me a lot to race there. So probably we will not be speaking because I will be probably still racing in Japan. But in the end, this test opened first of all the door to have opportunity in Formula 1. But second of all, it was only by then that I realized I think I'm capable of driving F1 cars on high level. And it was super late.
Did you have a vision that what would you do other than racing at that time?
Well, yes, a bit, because in the end, my whole, let's say, life is driven by passion to motorsport. So one of and karting was the best example and probably the category which gave me most of it, because in the end there were poor racing. It was only about racing, and I have been doing mechanic as a 15. I have been working helping younger drivers. It sounds strange when you are 15 and you are helping the others, but it's fact. I mean, one of my highlights of not only my karting career, but of my time in motorsport is we won European Championship race in 2000 with Michele Fanetti, was a junior driver. He was 13. And there was also Marco Mappelli, who actually is one of my best friends, who raced in Lamborghini. He's a Lamborghini factory driver. Practically, we went to do this European Championship in Germany, in Hahn, and I was kind of mechanics to them. And Michele won a European Championship. And for me, this was like, wow. So in the end, I would probably stay in karting or doing something in motorsport. I really enjoy. And even, when I was doing F1, I remember when I was going karting, I always wanted to do by myself. I enjoy also a part of which is a way of only driving in motorsport. And I will tell you, first answer will be I will be jobless because I can do only this. but secondly, if I think a bit, I say, I think I can still do something well a part of driving in motorsport.
Just to stay a bit in the Central Europe or in Eastern Europe, do you remember guys like Tomasz Enge and our boy Zsolt Baumgartner? Do you remember them racing in Formula 1? Was it an inspiration for you as well?
I remember them mainly from 3000, Formula 3000. Thomas, he actually was, he won a couple of races, and of course, then in F1, a bit short histories. I think, honestly speaking with you, I always thought that it's not because we are coming from different part of Europe, but that because we have less of us, we have, in the end, it's also poor mathematics and statistics. If you have many drivers, you have higher chance they will achieve good results. If you are single man representing your countries, it's really tough. And this is, and because in the end, Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia are very close to us. And in the end, I always try to have good relationship with those drivers. And it's not because it came by myself. I had a good relationship with Janis brothers. I raced against Jarek. There was a lot of different drivers from Croatia also. I remember Martin Čolak. He was actually a very good Croatian driver, but of course they were my age. It's normal. I was doing karting or Formula Renault at that time, and I didn't have really even a chance to talk with them. But of course, I was following them.
No one knows better this environment than you. So you know the requirements, you know all sorts of things what a driver need to reach Formula One. So do you think do we have a chance to see someone from Eastern Europe again in Formula One sometime soon in the future?
For sure, yes. Again, this is a statistic thing. First of all, a lot of things has changed. In the past, I was the only one really representing my country, but now we see a lot of Eastern Europe drivers in international level races in karting. But when I say a lot, it really means a lot. I mean, you see them doing very well. You see them even winning races. So automatically, the answer should be straight away yes. But to arrive to Formula One it will be too simple to say only yes. It's a complex process. You have to be in the right place in the right moment. Of course, you have to have talent. Talent is not everything. You need to keep working as a kid. When you develop yourself, you have to develop yourself as a driver. Let's say the step between karting and Formula racing, single-seaters, is always very delicate. I know many good drivers, karting drivers, who were not so good in Formula, and other way, the drivers who were average in karting, or good but not winners, they are doing much better in single-seaters. So it is possible, for sure. For sure, we have, not only in Poland, I think, really potential and the kids which are doing very well, and this is very nice because I can maybe focus more on Poland because in the end I know more about those drivers, but in the end when you see when you open a starting list for an event and you see the names, and in the past it was myself, occasionally one or two drivers from Poland, but very occasionally, once, twice, and that's it. Now you see at least group of 10, 12 names on, let's say, most popular or most difficult international races, and they are doing full seasons. They are doing over 20 races. And there is another group, which is, let's say, a cup driver races like ROK, like Rotax, where you have not 10, you have 35 Polish drivers coming to these races, and this shows that things are changing in Poland, not only a country, and I think it's same in Hungary, but also in motorsport. But things will not change alone. All this process needs support, needs development. As a drivers, they need to develop. They need to be put in the situation to be able to show their talent. And for whatever reason, this has been achieved a bit in karting, because as I said, statistically, I was the only one 30 years ago, or 25, and now there are big groups. So whoever did something, I don't know what has been done, because in the end, I don't see big changes. But of course, Poland as economical country, economical side is much healthier. Probably me, because I became Formula 1 driver, and Formula 1, we can watch Formula 1. And there is, of course, federation is doing a bit. So there are steps, but it's not, we need to push. We need to, if we want to have, when I say we, Poland, Hungary, whatever country from Eastern Europe, if we really want to develop a process and a system which will help those drivers, young drivers, it is a lot of work, and it's a work not only for 1 month, 1 year. Is a long process, is a culture. Motorsport in the end is a sport where many times people don't realize how complicated it is, because there is I think it's normal, and I don't blame the people that in the end most of the people are driving cars. So in the end they think, well, I drive the car, they drive on the racetrack, it's not so difficult. But in the end, it is a sport which requires practice, requires training, requires knowledge, requires time spent on the racetrack. Football, you have a ball, you go. I think every next corner there is possibility to play football. Racing and karting, whatever it is, we have very few opportunities. And fortunately, we have Hungary. If you imagine, there is no Hungarian. We have nothing in.
It would be a completely different story. Yes.
Yes. I mean, the first time I saw Formula 1, because we talk about Formula 1, and let's say, but the reality is, I went with the bus with my mom in '97 to see Hungarian Grand Prix as a kid, and in the end, if this will not happen, probably I will not have this path. There are moments when you are a kid. There are moments. It is a question of even 1 second. I think many times we don't realize that our life is driven by those short moments, especially when you are kids. When you are a kid, these short moments gives you directions, gives you passion, gives you, let's say, goals, gives you dreams. In the end, it's a dream. If you ask me in '97, how I don't remember. I remember a few things. I remember I have a ticket on the grass, and I was there from Friday, I think. But I was kid, so I say, well, and I wanted to see more. Because I see a lot, but from the top. So I want to come closer. So I start sneaking into the grandstands without ticket, because of course you need to find a way. I was small, and so I was, and in the end I was like in 3-4 different grandstands, sitting like pole position, first row.
Do you know when I heard this story for the first time from you? In 2006, in the hotel in Budapest, before your Grand Prix debut, when Mario Tyson told you that you will be the race driver for the very first time for BMW Sauber. But you see, I mean, in the end, it's already 16 years ago it was, and I still repeat same story. So it means this weekend, a part of I was super excited, and I remember the sound of F1 cars, which we miss now. It was incredible. But there are things where in the end, I was 97, I was 12. 12 now, it was 25 years ago.
and in the end, I'm saying this, and I'm saying it with still emotions, and so it means this weekend gave me a lot. Maybe I didn't realize at that time, because in the end you don't think about it, but probably thanks to inconsciously, I don't know, but probably also thanks to this trip to Hungarian, it gave me something which then I wanted to become probably F1 driver. I don't know. In the end, nobody really talked around me about F1. But what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do the best. I wanted to race on the top level, and of course to win, because you enjoy when you are winning. I didn't win a lot, unfortunately. Later, after my karting stage, I did win a bit, but of course it's never enough.
You told me on that night that you told your parents that I will come to Formula One the next time again when I will be a driver.
This is true. I mean, I say something. Well, I really enjoy, but then I say, probably I was joking. You are 12, you don't realize. But this is a true story. Because probably my parents saw that I enjoy it and I really like it, and then they say maybe we can go another time, and probably it's a true story that I say that if I enter the F1 paddock, I enter it with the helmet, and not helmet that I bring it to another driver. Watch out. So yeah, I mean it has been for sure. It has been it started. I mean the story how we went is also different. It shows how the times were different, because in the end, the way I remember, because we were buying a magazine, and there was practically the magazine was organizing this trip. So we called and or my mom or my father called and because I couldn't go alone, and my father probably was working, so I went with my mom, and I went into the bus like a trip, like a proper trip, a fun trip. And I remember we were staying in center, not center, no. We were staying in the hotel. Actually, I think once I passed the area, and I realized, of course, it was more old hotel, but we went to the center to there was event of McLaren, so there was a show. I didn't know. Now I know it was a show car. At that time, I thought it's a real Formula One car, exposed in front of the hotel. I remember which hotel. We don't say the name, but so for me it was like everything was like wow.
Based on what you've heard from Robert in this first part of the interview, I hope you agree that one of his core values is truly his courage. By the way, as someone from the same part of the world, I can confirm that our lives were not easy back in the late 80s and the early 90s. As the Iron Curtain fell, the world became a much more open place, but travel remained extraordinarily complicated and expensive. Hats off to Robert's father, Arthur, for being committed enough and support his son in that environment. His mother also deserves a lot of credit for accepting the challenge of that bus trip to Hungary for the 1997 Grand Prix. To all of you around the world, please remember this story. People can say a lot of things, but with my co-hosts, Gergő and Tamás, we always say the same thing. Never miss the chance to attend the Grand Prix or help your children get a live Formula One experience. These occasions can produce miracles. For Robert it was 1997, while for me it was 1986, the year of the first Hungarian Grand Prix. We both really get the infection when we first saw roaring Formula One cars running around. Funny enough, we arrived to the sport at the same time. The 2006 Hungarian Grand Prix was his first F1 race as a race driver of BMW Sauber F1 team, and it was my first race as an accredited journalist. Many things have happened since that race. He was one of the hottest Formula One talents for a while. He won the 2008 Canadian Grand Prix, and after the first few years at BMW, he worked for Renault. He proved on track numerous times that he is a true fighter, but the strongest confirmation came after his infamous rally crash in February of 2011. The incident was heartbreaking for him and his fans. It appeared for years that he would never be able to drive in Formula One, but the fighter fought his battle again and won. Yes, he lost the Ferrari drive for 2012, but when he returned in 2019 with Williams, he earned much more. He was dubbed as the Niki Lauda of the modern times. We can't imagine how difficult and painful this period of his life was for him. He says it completely changed his mindset. Let's listen how it was, with the words of the man himself. It's time to talk about Robert Kubica, the fighter. It's a fact that you are a fighter. We have seen it on the track many times, but the strongest proof of this is what happened after your rally crash. We heard a lot about the crash, but what happened in the aftermath? How can we imagine it?
Well, I said already too many. It was hell of the period. It has been a part of it has been super complicated, painful, and exhausting, not only physically but also mentally. But it has been a period which changed my life, but not changed my life because of racing. It changed my life because I started thinking different way, and is a it's not easy to talk, but it is a thing which I'm not really. From one side, I'm happy because I think I'm much sensitive, much more sensitive. I don't know how to say it. First of all, I appreciate much more things because before this accident, I was a bit strange. I had I realize now that I have been extreme on some things, but I see differently things, and I think I am a better person. But for many years, I felt like I'm not myself. I'm not same. I'm not Robert, which I liked from before. Mm-hmm. And when I say I liked, it's not on being a person, but on the races. In motorsport, sometimes it's easier to be a close person without really feelings and doing your job than being a person which is attached to what you are doing, and it's easy. You can, I feel much more emotions. I'm much more emotional, and there was one person which told me something which is I never thought about it. But it's the true story. Is a fact that when you have much more emotions, it means you also you know yourself. You can control them, and that's why you have more emotions, because you know how to react to them. And I have much more emotions, positives, negatives. Of course, those negatives are more painful. Probably in the past, I will walk away and I will just shake your head and that's it. But the biggest difficulty, or the biggest thing which really is affecting myself all my life, will affect all my life, is that I think differently, and you cannot change. So I'm still hard on some things. I have my own opinions, character, but I see things differently. I think differently, and probably I also react differently. And this has been a big change. In the beginning, I was not accepting this. I was I was feeling out of my comfort zone, and a part of my, of course, physical limitations, which were and are still visible, and the process of surgeries and everything. It has been a long process on mental aspect.
How were you able to keep your spirit alive?
It's very simple. I mean, in the end, we come back to the one of our first topic. What I will be doing if I will not be race driver. In the end, I have that moment showed me that I have probably more passion to what I'm doing than I thought. Because it was much easier to say, okay, I had a good, nice career in Formula One. I achieved a lot, I think, from where I'm coming, I achieved a lot. It has been good time. Okay, the life has been tough, probably to me, but I still think I have been very fortunate and very lucky. I stop, I do something else, but I have not. I choose, let's say, the way which probably was more painful, harder work, but it's just because of passion. Just because, in the end, it's not because I don't know nothing else to do, because I will find. It's not the it's not the issue, but I want to do things with passion. I want to do things which makes me happy. Of course, they are making me also angry, and often if you ask me if I come back after my races or happy, no, I often come back home pissed off because I see things which could do better from myself, from the team, and but it's just because I really live this from passion. And a good example. Okay, I'm going now to something else, but Le Mans. I did participate Le Mans this year, and Le Mans opened me up again. Gave me the moment where I say, well, I still am age of 37, although I have been racing in Formula One. I feel like a kid. Like I feel like exactly same boy when I was in Hungary, watching on grandstands Formula One. I don't know how to explain it. It's something which I realized when I was going to Le Mans last year, that I felt after a long time that I was excited to go to the event. Because it was something new. It was something I don't know what to expect. I was it's strange to say, but it's a fact. At the age of 37, I was debuting Le Mans. Le Mans for me is one of the, if not the toughest race around this planet, and a part of how it went last year, which were of course completely different, two different outcomes. But last year Le Mans gave me also a tough emotions, because in the end, losing a race which you have in the pocket, leading the race on the last lap after 23 hours 58 minutes racing. So in the end, all these moments and losing the race in Le Mans, and how the emotions I got in Le Mans, it shows that I still do it for passion and still Formula One. Every time I jump into F1 car, although it's not an easy, I'm not saying it's a difficult, but to drive F1 car every 3-4 months, where you need to kind of, everyone is watching you. I'm not saying you need to perform, but I'm doing free practice on Fridays, and you would like to help the team. So by me helping the team, you need to be performing well, because driving 2 seconds off the pace, it will not give same feedbacks. So a part of this, a part of aspect of work, and that I really like, and I really happy that I'm having this opportunity in such a limiting testing period of Formula One. Imola, I do a Pirelli test after the Grand Prix. It's really my first time I'm jumping in the car, because I jumped in the car this year in Barcelona, but we had issues, so in the end I didn't drove, or I did like 4 installation laps. But Imola, I sit in, and there is something going on through my mind, my body, that I say, well, I really still enjoy this, although I know this is difficult, because I know driving F1 car is not a PlayStation. It's and driving F1 car every 3-4 months, or actually, last time I drove F1 car last year was September. So from September till April is a bit of period. Is a chunky of time. So through this time, I haven't been driving F1 car. And then you have a Pirelli test. So of course they don't want to waste time. They give you 5 laps for let's say acclimatizations, and then you do a tire test, and you start your day with let's say with the proper program. So additional, so in the end I say, well, those people, they have huge respect, because I don't know how long it will take me to adapt. And on top of it, Imola, last time I have been there, it's 2006. So I said, well. I was looking at the run program of the day, and I was like, wow, this is 37. From one side, I appreciate. From the other side, I know it's tough. I say, well, it will be difficult. And then we had small issues on the car. So in the end, what happened? We have to reschedule the program during the day. And what happened? I do 5 laps around Imola in 3 times long run of 20 something laps each. Pom. In Imola, which is quite physical. And then I have, of course, my limitations, and then I say, well, probably my biggest limitation is also not my physical, but what is going through my head, because and this is coming back to fighter topic, is that most of the times I think we put our limitations is in our head, not in really limitation. And after that day, I say, well, I hear, I know many drivers, they train a lot. I do train, but I'm not killing myself. I'm honest with you. I do cycle a lot, but if you tell me I'm preparing, no, I have been always like this, that I know my strong points, weak points, and I try to work on them. But when you see these things happening, and it's not written in newspapers, it will not be written in press release of the team, it will not be written anywhere else apart of my head and my brain. But I tell you, after that day, I clap the hands, and it never happens to myself. I say, well, this was a proper day of testing, and I think I deliver a very good quality of work with difficult circumstances, because 6-7 months I was not driving a F1 car, but nobody really understands it if you are not in this situation. Nobody can really understand, and that's why, all in all this period after the accident, after my crash, there is so many things which nobody will knew about them, and nobody will never read about them, but they gave me so big boost of going, of moving, of trying to achieve things, which has been the engine of my, let's say, career after the accident. But what was most painful, and not most painful, but again, people, they don't realize, because they have not been in the situation. In the period I was coming back to Formula 1, or even now, I heard the story that I'm too old. It came to me that my team boss said that he's not sure I will be capable of going through all the season. I tell you, if I'm capable of not driving 6-7 months the car and jumping in Imola, where I have not been 16 years, and doing 5 laps, and do 3, I think I did 4 long runs in the row. This is like taking a baby which doesn't swim and throw it into the water. if he comes up, it means you cannot say he cannot swim. He does. You don't know how he does it, and this is I agree. If you tell me, well, I don't know how Robert does it, I'm 100%. I tell you, yes, you are right. But if you want to tell me that I will not be able to do it, is a different story. Because I think I show many times in these 6-7 years of, let's say, when I come back closer to Formula 1, that most of the things people were saying, they were not correct. You know, I heard that in Monaco I could not drive. Listen, on my comeback story or on this, I have been so careful because the first person who has a lot to lose was myself. But I was not losing, not money, I was losing myself, because I never closed the door of Formula 1. I never did it, but I hardly kept it open because I was realistic. And there were moments like for Renault test in Valencia in 2017, my first test after rally crash in 2011. You know, I have been so careful of accepting it. I have been going through different process of arriving to the decision. I put my body, myself into the, let's say, gradually into the stress of driving F1 car through different series, through different sessions, and in the end, you know, if I arrive to the moment where I accept it, it means I have been kind of ready, but it was being like closing completely the door, so shut it down, fully locked, or opening it, but not fully, opening it by 1 millimeter. Mm-hmm. This was my first step. I knew this, and the reason why I say the one who was losing everything was myself, because probably this hope of one day, this dream or this desire of being back in F1 car was keeping me alive, and I didn't, you know, I had the opportunity to test F1 car probably 2 years earlier, and I didn't consider it.
With which team? Which team offered you the drive? If it's not possible to say.
Top secret.
Okay.
Well, there were a few talks, and but anyway, for me, first of all, I thought it was too early. I didn't want to hurt myself. You know, it was a kind of bleeding process, which was healing, and that was also the reason why I decided to go rallying in the first period of my comeback. But you know, and then you hear stories that in first corner he will not be able to do this. In Monaco he will not be able to do this. But do you really think I'm so desperate to do a number, to be in F1 for being a number? I don't care. If I arrive to the point, is that I had tools to believe that I could do it. Then, if I'm able to deliver, this is different story, because future nobody knows. But that I have tools to do it, yes. And this is a full topic. The full topic is, and I don't want to talk about it, is that if you tell me, and everyone can tell me, because to be honest with you, I don't know even how I do it. Mm-hmm. If you ask me, Robert, can you explain us how you think it's possible that there are drivers who struggle with being fully 100%, let's say, on the fitness side and fully functional? There are drivers, you know, coming out from the cars quite, I'm not saying destroyed, but it's a tough sport. It's really a tough sport. There are drivers which, like Kevin. Kevin was, who, you know, was kind of, due to the situation, he discovered he will be driving F1 car again after being stopped, but not stopped in the bed. He was driving other series. Yes. He will be back. And in the beginning of the year, I read a few comments that he struggled physically, you know, in Jeddah with the neck and everything. And for sure, I have weaker neck than him, 100%. But when you know your tools, you have to also find a way of working around them, and all in all, that's why Imola for me was, I say, well, this was a proper day. Apart of that, in that day I drove a car which probably was similar to Renault from 2005. It was super easy, so nice, so predictable. I was very impressed about our car in Imola test, but of course Imola test is after the Grand Prix, so the track is in very good conditions and stuff like this. But yeah, it's I mean, those stories, those topics, we could talk for ages, and it's in the end you cannot summary up in 10 minutes something which happened in 5 years, and yeah, and a lot of things were happening, but yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy I didn't give up, and I'm happy that in 2019 probably my best driving was around Monaco, which for most of the people I could not drive around them.
Probably Fred Wasser didn't think that you are able to do a full season, but whenever I talk to him, he always praises you, saying that you are doing a fantastic job for the team. It's a feedback for you, eh?
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I mean, no, Fred was an example. I was, the fact is, I understand, when I say that my accident changed me, I often realize I put myself into the position, I try to put myself into the position of the other people. And if you tell me, if I'm team principal, and if you tell me, do you give a chance to Robert to drive? Because in the end, I have to start from there, and what tools they have to put the decision, and how I know, because I lived my story from my perspective. It's impossible. It's really hard to say yes. Mm-hmm. It's super hard. I mean, that's why in the end, in 2019 in Williams, we had disaster year. It was a difficult situation, but in the end, I will always thanks Williams family and the people involved, because they have been part of, and they make it happen. And of course, I had a good support from Orlen. So all these puzzles were. It was a difficult year. It was a year which I think I realized when I drove first time Alpha in 2020 in Barcelona that the car I was driving before, it was a bit of it was a bit different story. The different story to what I was driving now, and I to be honest, I really think my year was not as bad as it looked, and this was what in all these years, this is the thing which I'm most disappointed, because it will stay only for myself, and I have no regret I tried. But if the situation would be more healthy, and if I would have a normal tool, I'm not saying top car, I'm saying normal. If I would have Alpha 2020, I tell you, probably I would be still driving. I would be still racing, probably. Because it's normal, when you see driver with my limitations, and then having difficult season, it's impossible to judge from outside, and of course everyone is trying to cover their asses, and it's a business. But with I'm not saying with the decent car, I'm sure I will be able to put some strong performances through the year. So, but that's life, I still, as I said, I repeated many times, I really feel like I'm a lucky guy, and not because I drove in F1.
Because you are able to drive on top level. That's why you are a lucky guy.
Because in the end, Formula 1 is for sure Formula 1. But for example, Le Mans shows that there are categories in motorsport which they can give you. I'm not saying more or same emotions, same challenges, different challenges, because it's completely different. but I rate them on the same level. And it's the same story with WRC. The reason I went there is after my accident, for me, my goal was to become world champion. Mm-hmm. Okay, there are two goals. For me in Formula 1, there are two goals. Or you become world champion or you become Ferrari driver. The best combination is to become world champion with Ferrari. But this is a difficult topic, looks like, in the last years.
Very difficult topic.
But because Ferrari is not winning for long. But, okay, in the end, I touched dedicated topic because in the end, world champion, I would never knew if I would become, but for sure, if not accident, I will be wearing in 2012 a red overall, red suit. So it's also something which is, which to be honest, for many years has been very painful, but not painful. I felt like I missed opportunity to. And the reason why I was doing it, and still now it's because future you don't know how races will go, you don't know how the car will be performing and everything. But for me, to have a chance to be dressed in red was I have to say, if you think back and if you would write a story. That there will be a small kid from Krakow, especially in those days, arriving to Formula 1 and to be a Ferrari driver, it will be a hell of the story. And the problem is that I missed the last chapter of the story. And this is...
Millions of people around the world, including me, are 100% sure that you could have won the world championship with Ferrari.
But no, I mean, this you cannot say this. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but this you cannot say. I think I'm a kind of person which looks realistically on things, and I don't like to use if word because if. But anyway, the life has gone differently, and the best coming back to finish the topic of accident and post-accident, because I know it will always come back in my life. Although, of course, the time is making it less popular. The question, I to be honest, I don't like to talk about it, but I understand. The best answer is, and this is the best summary I can give you, that I have many times the questions, very, very straightforward question, which I hate it, but I got it many times, is how much I lost or how differently I'm driving to before accident. And my answer is very honest, and it highlights that I have passed by all this period is I don't remember how I was driving before. And this is a fact. I'm like this. This is my body. This is how I am. And I cannot change it anymore. And what I can do, I can work on this to become better. But how I was before, I don't remember. And I don't want to remember because there is no point of doing it, and this is how I am, and this is for me the biggest achievement I did, because for many years it was not like this.
It's difficult to say anything after Robert's words. This part of his story is a true inspiration for everyone. Not just in motorsport, but in all aspects of our lives. There is always a light at the end of the tunnel, and if we want something, we can get it. We just have to push and fight, even if the goal appears to be unrealistic. When you have a great opportunity to talk with him, it's impossible not to ask him about the pinnacles of his career. However, we tried it in a different way because I wanted to hear the untold part of that. Of course, Robert never disappoints anyone, and he proved it once more. We talked through the aftermath of his Montreal victory and why they were not more successful with BMW. But he also explained why it was better to work for that semi-Renault team, or Enstone team as he calls them, in 2010. So many small but important and interesting details that help us to understand his career a little better. Robert shared his thoughts on the 2022 championship, and we will find out who is the best driver he has ever raced against on the track. We have to talk about your career highlights. The absolute top is obviously 2008 Montreal. A victory, a fantastic victory after a horrible crash the year before at the same place. There are a few fun questions about the victory. For example, how was the next 24 hours after the victory in Montreal?
And this is a good question, and I'm happy to answer because I think it will show a bit what person I am, and because I assume whoever was asking this question is waiting for an answer that I had a good party and probably it was tough to wake up next morning. The fact is that I took the first flight to come back to Europe, and I flew to Barcelona because Tuesday morning, 9 a.m., I was the only race driver testing in Barcelona.
2 days after the victory. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, not even 2 days, 36 hours. But to be honest, when I did this, my team asked me if I want to stay. I say no. I want to go. There is a test. We need to test. And this is a bit a part of character which for me was too extreme in the past, because if you tell me if I really enjoyed this win, no, because for me it was the win was a part of the route which was supposed to bring me to the top, and it was a kind of one thing, and for me, when I answered this, no, I want to go back. I do the test. I mean, they asked me if they have to call someone else to be in Tuesday morning. I said no, it was planned. I'm happy to test. And after many years, if you tell me if it would be better to go to celebrate with the team, probably yes. It was not so crucial. I will be Tuesday morning in Barcelona, but again, I'm always thinking that if you decide something at that moment like this, it's not that someone put me a gun and forced me to make this decision. It was the decision which makes me more happy, or decision which came more naturally, and that's why I'm happy with it. But a nice story, or nice, it's not nice story, but the real story about Canada 2008 and after the race. I will always remember this situation, and it has been in my head since that day. After the race, I'm there with my manager, Daniele, and Jean Alesi passed by. Of course, Jean was a good friend. He's a good friend of Daniele, and Jean congratulates me, and then he says a sentence like something like this in Italian. But he says, I translate like, "Hey, but don't do what I did." And he goes, and I ask Daniele, what he meant by this? And Daniele say, well, Jean is the guy who won first time in Canada, and it was his only win in F1. And then I say, oh fuck. And then I said, no. In my head, I say, oh, I cannot, I cannot make it like this. And can you imagine this sentence, this situation stays in my head for forever. It was like I fear it, and this was wrong, because in the end the life will, if you will have opportunity, I mean, you will take it. If not, that's part of the game. But the fact is that the fact is that it's already 16 years later, and dear Jean Alesi, by saying this, he has a friend who did exactly the same as what he did. So yeah.
I will tell it to him. That you told me this story. He's a very, very good friend of mine, and he really likes these kind of stories. Back to 2008 in Montreal, you fly to testing, and you told us in interviews before that you immediately knew that the season is finished because BMW will stop the development of the car because it was the target to win a race for that year. But did you try to impress them to continue, as you were leading the championship after that race?
Yeah, it's a topic which is very delicate. I think. First of all, with BMW, I think we had a very strong car that year, and often I think we didn't realize how strong it was. I think it was not the fastest car, but beginning of the year, in the end, after 7 races after Canada, I was leading championship. Not due to the speed, but due to being very consistent, and of course. I finished a few races on the podium, and we were there. And what is most disappointing and painful is that we had the parts which we did test already on track, which they were making the car being more competitive, and they never went into that car for races. And this is. First of all, they say, because it was this. Then then they say it will take a month. Then after 1 month, you ask where they are. And then they say, no, we cannot have because we have only one set of parts and we want 2 cars being the same. I say, well, but I'm leading championship. Then it was a bit of, it was tough time. The thing with BMW, to be honest, first of all, I'm for sure thankful to them that they gave me opportunity, because in the end, is BMW, Mario Tyson, and people involved, who they signed me, who they then decide to put me in the car during the year in 2006 to replace Jacques. In Hungary, of course, we know this. And in the end, they always. I think I did have a long-term contract with BMW. Then, if you ask me, if during all these years, how I remember that years, and especially that year, it was that we lost hell of an opportunity. This is the fact. Then the reasons. They can be hundreds of reasons, and someone can, it's a topic which always come back, that some people say I'm not correct. It was not like this. The fact is that I meet in 15 years time few mechanics. Even last year, I met the mechanic who was working on my car that year, and he remembered me the story. I forgot. I deleted. He said, if we would put that part on the car, for sure we win some more races. And I was the guy who tested the part in Jerez. I know how much better it was making the car. And to be honest with you, one winter lately, I opened the classifications, all classifications, and I put a rough number, like poorly rough number, but real, of how this change was making better the car. And then I just put, okay, the race was this laps, simple. It's too simple. It doesn't work like motorsport, doesn't work like this. But like in qualifying, I say, okay, here I start P4. Okay, with this, probably I will start, maybe first, maybe second. All right. Here I start P5. With this, I will be starting P2. Okay. And then if you still think how the season developed, and that until last race or before last race, I was still in the fight. Then you start realizing we have lost hell of opportunity. Then the reasons, I don't want to talk about them, and I don't understand. I still don't understand them, but I understand their point of view. But I don't get it because I have been growing up on the circuit. I have been sleeping in the workshop, so I do everything for performance. I do everything for oriented performance. And BMW was, I think they thought also inconsciently. They thought 2009 they will have better car, and it was all focused on 2009. But the reality turned out that 2009 was a disaster, and 2008 we lost. I'm not saying we lost championship. I cannot say this because you never know. But I tell you that with not really a lot of more effort, but not even effort, just put this thing on the car. Only with this, without spending millions, without focusing 5 months of development, I would be for sure fighting for championship. And it went different way, but that's how it is.
Was it a surprise for you that they decided at the end of 2009 to leave Formula One? Was it all of a sudden, or you expected it?
Yeah. No. This was crazy. I mean, again, this was coming after Hungary. The Hungary thing is always something happening around the Hungary. No, I tell you the story. I mean, and this shows also how BMW was run in good way. I think some ways is that or in very very structured way. It was very because I realized after when I changed to Renault, I realized that things can be run differently in different way. But coming back to 2009, I think I don't know exactly when I knew it, but I knew it for sure not earlier than 15 hours before press release was announced.
Really?
Yeah. I finished Hungarian Grand Prix. I went home, and I think it was Wednesday. Daniele called me. He told me he say how I am. I say BMW is pulling out. I said what? To be honest with you, if I have to be 100% honest, from one way I was disappointed. From the other way, I say, well, this gives me opportunities to try different teams. And after 2008, I was not happy about a few things, and to be honest, I was looking forward to work with someone else, and so it came as a shock, but it didn't fire up negative emotions, like, oh, what I'm doing now. I think I have been a very a highly rated driver at the time. So I knew I would have good opportunities somewhere else. Of course, the short notice was there. Because in the end, it was already August, and it's not easy to find, but I found quite quickly, let's say, opportunities. But I didn't know. In Hungary, when I was in Budapest, I had zero. And in this world, in the paddock, in the end, there is always someone who talks. You can hide things, but it will come out. This, absolutely zero. Or suddenly BMW had big meeting board, and from one day to the other they decided, which I don't think. Maybe yes, but decision maybe was done short call, but I mean there had to be. Or to be honest, people who were involved, like Mario Tyson, they did a very good job to hide it, and to don't feel fear in our team that things will stop. And then 6 p.m. probably day before call, and 10 a.m. in the morning press release.
After this corporate environment, you joined to Renault, which was completely different. It was a completely different environment. Yes. Was it better or worse?
Okay, I have to be honest. I have to be honest.
Yes,
I cannot say what I thought when you asked me. When you were saying was it better? If you want me to tell you what I reply in my mind,
tell me.
I say 100 times better.
Mm-hmm. Because of what?
It was because of I think I use on purpose Enston team because in the end Enston has been different names, different even car manufacturers, but I think Enston is Enston. It's like a bit of Alfa Romeo. Today is Alfa, but Sauber is Sauber.
It's always Sauber, yes.
But Enston-based, yes, Enston-based team. They are poor racers. I don't know how it is now. I can always say how it was, and probably also because I was replacing Fernando, which Fernando was very similar to, I think, myself. Or no, I was very similar to Fernando, I should say, because he was earlier in Formula 1 and he achieved more. But apart of driving styles, the way we work, the way we see things, and the way we operate, I think it was so. First of all, I have so easy life in Renault in 2010, incredible. I mean, I could only focus on racing, nothing else. And the best thing in that team was that we had some proper discussions, flat out. And I again in 2019, my engine engineer from Renault, who is we stay in contact, and we went dinner in Abu Dhabi, and he told me, do you remember the fight? I mean, it was not fight, the discussion you had in Australia. I say, and then I forgot about it. I say, yeah, I remember. It was involved James Allison, myself, Bob Bell, Eric Boulier, Simon Rainey, who was my race engineer, and myself. 6 people, I think, and maybe someone else. Alan Permain. 7 people, 8 people. I don't remember exactly, but those people. It was so intense. I don't know. I know the topic, but I keep it for myself. But it was so intense that it was like 40 minutes fire. But you know what was the best? Once this finished, we opened the door. We got out from this room. Nothing happened. Mm-hmm. Like only racing, only performance, and to come back from quite corporating run team like BMW, it was for me. It was you see now. I mean, it was incredible. A part of results. Because I always think that many people they don't understand or they don't give enough value to atmosphere, to the way you work, to that people have good synergy between them. I think often in Formula 1, it's performance results, but we are human beings. We have different characters. We are coming from different countries. We are. It's impossible you have good relationship with everyone. But I think having good relationship helps, especially in difficult times. And I remember I had good results with Renault, unexpected. I think, especially from the situation it was, because in the end the team was not owned by Renault anymore. It was named Renault, but there was Gerard Lopez, Jenny Capital,
yes.
During So I remember also my first call with Gerard Lopez, which was not so easy.
Tough guy. He was a tough guy.
No. Yeah. But the problem is I was in very strange situation because Renault somehow was hiding that they sold the team to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I heard many rumors, but of course, when I signed with Renault, I signed with car manufacturer. with the car manufacturer. I mean, I'm not signing with. I have nothing against Gerard, but I'm not signing with one businessman who wants to invest in Formula One. I signed with a car manufacturer. Is a bit different story. And then Renault, I was more a bit upset by how it was done, that they didn't tell me. They kept me secret for long. I think they kept secrets for long, and they were actually saying, no, it's not true what is written in media, to exclude that I could get out from the contract. So the time they told me, it was game over. I remember the time they told me, there was only place free was Toro Rosso. And I called we called Toro Rosso at certain point, but no, because nobody knew, and I heard some rumors from Enston. Actually, the factory was shut down. There was a period where in Enston, it was December. December you have to work for next year. I mean, you work already since 1 year for next year, but so okay, the situation was a bit strange. But apart of this, Jerez test was our second test in together with Renault. The first test in Valencia was so. Second test we go Jerez. It was day one was so. I think day one drove Vitali. Day two I drove, and then I felt in the car. I felt the car could drive much better, but I was not able to drive it. And then I asked if we can work on setup, on try completely different ideas, but like completely different DNA character. And last day I was driving again, and we did test. And I tell you, I end up the day. I was so pumped up. I was so positive. I was like, I said, well, this is not bad at all. And we do our debrief, checklist, all the procedures you do in after driving. And then I see Simon, my race engineer. I was so pumped up, probably that I was expecting people being pumped up like me, but and I say, I tell him, what's going on? Why you are so? I'm confused. And he told me this, and I will always remember. And this is the best compliment you can give to someone like me who likes to work on the car. He told me, I don't understand why we are so fast. Because, in the end, is the car, and the reality was we were testing with the car from year before. And the year before, they finished the season with Grosjean, with Fernando, where they were nearly last. And because the factory was shut down, we didn't have new car. The new car was arriving, so we were testing with last year car. And the only thing modification was there was a bigger gurney on the rear wing to simulate a bit of downforce, more downforce we will have with the new car, but that's it. So and I remember not only how the car improved, but also lap time wise. We were like over 1 second of the pace, and suddenly we were like a couple of tenths. And when you hear your race engineer in positive way, but you see he was confused. He say, well, what we were doing wrong, that suddenly now we are so competitive. And this is a best thing you can have. It will again never be written in any of Wikipedia or statistics, but as a race driver, it gives you. I rate it nearly the same as winning race, because in the end, this is part of being race driver also, a complete race driver.
You just mentioned Fernando, and in the past you spoke about Luis as well. Who is the best driver you raced against?
It depends on the periods, I think. I will not pick up one. For sure, I would say the most complete at that time was Fernando. But the things are, changing. Luis, when we joined Formula One, we didn't have experience. Fernando probably was on his peak of experience, not experience, of his performance, of the team, of everything. So I did have good relationship with Fernando on track, off track, which for sure helped, and I respect him massively. but I do so respect Lewis. I do so respect also other drivers which I raced against. So, the field and the level is so high that it's very difficult. But if you would have to pick up one from, let's say, my old days, probably, I don't know, not probably, it will be Fernando. If I have to pick up one, but I don't like to pick up one because in the end, I think when you race against 20 or 19 drivers in Formula 1, there is no one who is weak. But there are some drivers which are making the difference more than the others in some occasions, and I think Fernando is one of this, and he's still showing it.
Second to last question. How do you like the title fight of this season?
Well, I did like it last year massively. I think a lot of people enjoy it, and I think Formula One needed something like this because we do have a sport which can offer a lot. It's a very complex sport. It's difficult to understand it from outside, and what is really important is to have racing, which in the Mercedes era we lost a bit. In the end, it was super intense. What was last year, but I see also this year is very intense, and with different probably drivers around. Well, Max is always there, so I think this is always good, and it's a guarantee of having intensity and that he will never give up. Sorry, but I think it's still early. But the new regulation shuffle up a lot of things. There is a lot of excitement. There is a lot of unknowns. There is development process which will influence a lot during especially first years of the new regulation. So I think it's a nice year to watch.
It's a very important fact that you have 99 Grand Prix under your belt. Do we have a chance to see you for 100th time on the Formula One grid?
I don't know. I mean, in the end, I had 97, correct, last year, and I thought, for sure. In the end, it's just a number. But if you ask me, I would like for sure to do some races. But I have to, as always, look things realistically. I did also even tell you, if I would put myself into the situation, I understand it's not easy. I think, again, unfortunately, 2019, it was a milestone, and it was a hell of an achievement to be back on the grid. But unfortunately, it didn't went how I think, not even how it should, because should doesn't exist, because we cannot take anything for granted. But it was really, really tough. So I have to focus on what I'm doing. I'm racing in WEC, in endurance races. I did just finish a couple of weeks ago Le Mans for the second time. I was there. We finished second. Of course, after losing race last year on the last lap, it will not replace, but it's nice achievement. It's a big challenge, and whenever I will be ready, in the end, my position within Alfa Romeo F1 Team Orlen is reserve driver. So if I'm called to do the race, I have to make sure I'm ready, and I'm ready.
I talked to Robert Kubica, to the one who had so much courage. I talked to Robert Kubica, the fighter, and now I want to say something, Robert Kubica, the hero. Thanks a lot for motivating us all the time. Many thanks to Robert Kubica for the exclusive conversation, and many thanks to you as well for listening the very first English edition of the Formula Podcast. Follow Robert on Instagram as RobertKubica_real And you can follow me as well on Insta, Twitter and Facebook as Mesandor. We will continue to produce Hungarian language shows with my co-hosts, Dr. Gergő Gellérfi and Tamás Betlen. But if we have something interesting, you will hear about us in English again. Please continue to enjoy motor racing and Formula One. The last part of the season will be interesting. Cheers!
Hallgass meg korábbi műsorainkat, valamint iratkozz fel ránk Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast vagy más csatornáinkon. A linket megtalálod a leírásban, illetve a formula.hu weboldalon. Ha szeretnél hozzájárulni a műsor készítéséhez és fejlődéséhez, látogass el Patreon oldalunkra, amelynek címe www.patreon.com/formulapodcast.